Hello, everyone. I'm Alan Potcotter, and you're listening to Call Talk for April 15th, 2020. Today's topic is Busting the Barriers to Success, Your Center and Back Office Functions. If you're listening live, we invite you to be part of the show and ask questions. Here's how you do it. You can email me at calltalk@benchmarkportal.com. I want to remind everyone that all of our shows are archived and available to listen to any time of the day. You can go to Benchmark Portal website and then click on Call Talk, where you'll find them all. And now I'd like to introduce the host of the show, Bruce Belfiore.
Thank you, Alan, and welcome back to Call Talk, everyone. Well, the relationship between contact centers and back office functions can be either a beautiful marriage or a pretty ugly tug of war. Both depend on each other in most organizations, but the lines of communication and the amount of goodwill varies pretty widely among functional silos, and the availability of budget and resources can become bones of contention, along with processes and procedures. In some cases, the contact center is the point of entry for most employees, and in these cases, the back offices are basically staffed by quote-unquote alumni of the call center. In those cases, relationships generally are good because employees on the back office side really understand the call center in depth. Other situations are not so positive. And so a lot of issues can come up and a lot of finger pointing can happen. For example, in your center, do agents complain they can't find customer data because the software is out of date? Or they need to toggle among a dozen apps to get what they need? Do you feel it takes too long for analysts to finish weekly reports using out-of-date software? It's so important to align these back office functions to improve customer service and ensure you're managing the right metrics. So these are big issues for a lot of contact center managers. And that's why we brought in an expert on the topic for you, Nancy Munro, founder and CEO of Verbal Transaction. Nancy has been with us before, so welcome back to the show, Nancy.
Great to be here, and a pleasure to be speaking to your audience again.
Okay, well, great. Let me say a few words about you, Nancy. It's been almost 3 decades of experience in helping organizations implement and deploy voice enablement solutions. Nancy has worked with organizations like Microsoft, CVS, AT&T, and Walmart, helping them address performance challenges that align to their structural capabilities and revenue goals. And also, you may recall that Nancy pioneered voice-enabled technologies and simulations in the corporate space and was the first to launch an interactive audio role-playing simulator. So her current solutions leverage speech recognition and AI to provide a scalable and immersive learning application. So Nancy speaks at various conferences such as Amazon Voice Summit and was the chair of the MIT Enterprise Forum of Chicago for 3 years. So she's got a lot of experience and great wisdom to share with us, right, Nancy?
You bet.
Okay, good. So before we get into the topics we were originally focused on for this show, when you and I talked about it some months ago, I just have to ask you, in light of the current COVID-19 pandemic, which has basically taken over our lives and our contact centers, and given the mad rush to lock down and work from home, what have you been hearing that would be pertinent to our topic and of interest to our audience?
Yeah. So one thing for sure is that I think every contact center that has moved people work from home. I think that's a lot of that's going to be permanent, good or bad. And I think, but I'm seeing still some, brick and mortar. They're sending skeleton staff there, and they plan on, restaffing as soon as they can. But just from an executive webinar that I sat in on a couple of weeks ago, it's the feeling from the executive side of the house is that they need to have those plans in place. They need to have systems in place to where, if they do convene back into, on site, that they still have that ability to, in an emergency situation, because it's not only COVID-19. We've seen dramatic shifts in the weather, too, where you've got hurricanes and tornadoes and severe weather shifts because of which is forcing people to kind of work from home, or they can't get to work, or there's, wires are down or whatever. So it's also a way that they can have kind of a system in play as well.
Yeah, no, we've seen the same thing, and in fact, I think you're aware we've done 3 other CallTalk episodes that have had to do with the coronavirus, just because it's such a big issue for so many people. We had one with Dr. Fenzi, who talked about everything from the medical point of view for our listeners who are call center managers. We had another one that talked about hiring and screening in an age of coronavirus, because that's had an impact as well. And then we did the town hall last Friday, which we had 3 speakers from different companies of different sizes, and that really they're all very well attended. And I can just tell our listening audience too that all of those resources are available on our website under resources. So yeah, these are big issues, Nancy. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And so what you're hearing is that the home office thing may be more permanent rather than just something for the pandemic itself.
Right. Yeah. And even a couple of years back, I was out at Walgreens chatting with their operations folks, and at that time, they were saying, we plan on expanding the headcount, but we don't plan on expanding the facilities. So they were already putting things in place to any new hire was going to be a work from home hire. Right.
Yeah, no, one of our participants last Friday were Erie Insurance. They said about 10% of their folks were already at home, so they had the infrastructure for it and sort of process and procedures. But it's a different thing to move 90% of your population, into that overnight, basically. So a lot of real challenges came out of that. Well, any other thoughts there? I've got another question for you as well.
Just, this lends itself to, I'm just curious how many of them, because security is such a high-level priority for these organizations, I wonder how many of them had to kind of weigh the differences between setting somebody up in a home office to be productive versus making sure they have the right security measures in place. So I'm sure the IT folks were just kind of like, okay, we scramble to get all these people to in a secure infrastructure and maintain our levels of security. So I think there's probably a lot of new consulting opportunities potentially going along around anybody that's handling security from a remote or dispersed workforce as well.
Yeah, and the folks that I've talked to have been very upfront about the fact that functionality in general, not just security, but functionality in general, sometimes slipped a little bit during this transition, and so IT is working overtime to make sure that those gaps are filled so that nothing terrible happens. Well, just getting back to our main topic, which is what trends have you been seeing in the industry regarding miscommunication among front office and back office silos?
Yeah, so what I see quite a bit, especially in the healthcare arena, is, average handle time versus first call resolution. And, the people that are on the phone, they may have, I know someone that was in a call center that handles helping veterans, get through the healthcare system to get their benefits or to, submit the right forms and whatnot. And sometimes, it takes a while to explain that to them. And, the agent wants to make sure that this person doesn't have to call back or get the runaround because more likely they've already gotten the runaround, right? And so there's this battle between, well, I'm only supposed to be on the phone this long, but gee, if I help this person, help them out the right way the first time that they're on the phone, then I'm going, my numbers for first call resolution are going to be good. But, so there's this battle between, what are the right metrics to be measuring to support the customer, in a way that people that aren't on the front lines and aren't, listening in on calls, they're just looking at the numbers and spreadsheets versus really understanding sometimes maybe there's been a change in policy. Maybe there's been something in the market, like, COVID-19, that's caused this huge influx of a lot more calls or a lot more paperwork that has to be filled out for whatever reason. So I think there needs to be an understanding or some kind of calibration that somebody could say, raise their hand or say, hey, we're the ones taking these calls, and is there a way we can modify, some of those metrics when need be?
Right. No, I think that's so important, because there's oftentimes a myopic sense that, we're only taking so many calls. We can reduce the amount of headcount by X by reducing average handle time. And the problem there is you squeeze the balloon on the average handle time, and the agents will do what you ask them to do. They'll just get off the phone before they've actually finished the...
which is unfortunate. Yeah.
Have to call back in. So as you say, first call resolution goes down. And there's two things bad when first call resolution suffers. As you know, one is the fact that you take another call at that point, so there's a cost to it. Second, first call resolution has a high correlation statistically, as we know from having done this stuff for 20 years, with satisfaction. So first call resolution is one of the highest indicators, or let's say correlators, to satisfaction. So you're really kicking yourself twice if you make that kind of mistake. And oftentimes too, I'm sure you've seen this, it results in a not very creative conversation between talking about. In other words, they're just saying, average handle time, FCR, et cetera. Well, what are the tools that you have that could actually reduce the average handle time?
Right.
I mean, have you thought about, what you can do? Could you have videos on your website that describe things step by step, by slow step? I like to, Alan has heard me say this a million times, blindingly clear for you, right? And the thing is, if you do it, just your voice, you can do it, and people like that, etc. But there's also maybe a space in your toolkit for blindingly clear, really good videos that also help brand you. So they aren't just a tool, they're also something that's going to increase your branding and satisfaction with you. Or maybe it's the kind of thing where, with the client you were talking about, screen sharing would be of use. So, you could actually see it and invest in that. What do you think about those possibilities?
Well, I agree with that, and kind of the other side of that is people are saying, we have self-help, or we have, an automated kind of self-help, self-service system, and then they get to us, and I kind of cringe at some of those self-help that I've been involved in. but of course, I'm going to say, if you put together a simulation, to help people speed up their ability to, average handle time. In fact, we're working with a potential client right now that they're a BPO. And so from the BPO standpoint, they're getting charged, their fees are tied to how many minutes it takes that agent to handle that transaction. So, I come riding in on my white horse and say, for every new hire that you have, instead of them, on average, handling the call in 12 minutes, we can get them at the level of your seasoned people at 8 minutes. And I don't know what that calculates in your world to money being saved, but, that's the benefit of using, realistic immersive simulations, is you can get them up to speed and at the level of a seasoned person in a very short amount of time. But you've got to have the right tools, the right processes that are legitimately in the production environment. So depends on, do you keep changing your production environment so that everybody's kind of having to figure out, where's that file this time, and how do I access and navigate to this, folder that I need to get the information to the customer. And so that's the other challenge I see, is that so many times that the systems have to keep changing for whatever reason, and that you're not giving the people that are using the systems enough time to, or communicating in a clear enough manner. By the way, last night we did this big push and everything's now sitting in this drive versus that drive. So good communication skills and keeping people up to date on, all the changes that you're doing and the why behind. Sometimes you're just saying, I made a change, and you're not really telling them why or what the business reason was behind it, so that they understand and have, clear picture of, oh, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense, or you don't know why, and it's just an exercise in frustration for everybody.
Right. Well, can you give us an example or some examples that illustrate those important points that you're making?
Yeah. For example, when you've got a software system that's tracking your customer data, and let's say that you've got an upgrade in that data, and the IT people are all in on the meetings that know what's going to be changed, what tabs might be added or removed, and if you're not clearly communicating that to the end user, that's going to be a big mess on your hands. So I've seen a situation where somebody's been using Salesforce.com as their system of record, and then, lo and behold, they don't inform business group A that may have special tabs, or it was a small business group that had kind of their own unique interface to it. And somehow they got lost in the shuffle as far as getting the new upgrade or their tabs situated the way they needed to, and it just blew up in their face and caused a pretty big challenge and backpedaling once those folks got on the phone and went to go access something and it wasn't there. It was just completely gone. So, what you think is maybe a simple upgrade or system change, could have disastrous impact on the front end.
Right. Yeah, other areas where I've seen this sort of thing happen is in the insurance industry, for example, where the claims handling area may not be updating appropriately the system that the contact center is getting. So the contact center gets the call, they go into the system, look at the client record, and something that in fact has happened ain't there. And that's really embarrassing, and they get very upset about that. You've probably seen situations like that.
Right. And, or an example I had was a contracted call center handling calls for let's just say a cable company, and they just ordered the dispatch to go to XYZ house. Turns out they dispatched it to the wrong house, but then the call center, by the time that call center found out that they made that error, it was 3 weeks later.
Oh,
so it's like, how are you supposed to help teach that person they made a mistake if you're not getting the information until weeks later? And by then, it's kind of like, okay, oops, sorry, I'm bad. I won't do it again, versus, some type of more immediacy around it.
Yes. I mean, and there's situations where things have, been around long enough, situations have been around long enough that they really should have been taken care of. And for our listening audience, if you're in that kind of a situation, you need to build the business case and bring something forward that's very strong right away. I think situations where sometimes it's a little more understandable and you need a little bit of, you need to beg some forgiveness from customers on the phone is when you, for instance, have a merger of two financial institutions. You got two systems that are trying to get together, and one side doesn't know just how valuable this customer is because they don't have all the information in front of them. The customer will tell you just how valuable they are. But,
you know who I am.
You should know who I am. But, and actually one of the things we see is in merger situations, oftentimes the customer contact function is not taken into proper account here. And we oftentimes say that an assessment of the customer contact function and systems of the target company is just as important in due diligence as it is for legal due diligence or any other kind of due diligence. So,
absolutely. And the other thing I, suggest to people is how many times has your CIO or CFO sat in on a call? Until they're, actually sitting in and listening to what the customers say, not a recorded call, but being there, having to think on your feet, having to see the agent having to think on their feet, watching them navigate through the systems, that they're having to get to the right information within X number of minutes or seconds, and just having them witness that, I think would be very eye-opening for a lot of organizations.
Absolutely. And actually, I know an insurance company that does that, where they have senior executives rotate through and listen to calls to help to take calls. They don't so to say you're on your own because they know that they'll probably fall on their face. But it's been extremely helpful in terms of getting those resources we were talking about before and funding for things, because when the senior manager feels the pain of the front lane agent that they're not able to perform for the customer, not because they don't want to, but because the systems won't let them, suddenly it gets easier to get the funding that you need for stuff. So,
and it's like that show, Undercover Boss. I love that show because they get to hear kind of the side conversations or get the reaction of the customer, when they're not being taken care of properly, or they see, some kind of operational thing. They can just see, disasters happening, but they're following procedures. Like, well, that's all I've been given. These are the tools I have. I can only work with what I've been given.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, these are great insights, and I noticed that Alan has some questions for you. Why don't we hand things over to Alan for those questions?
Sure. Yeah, we're getting a couple questions here. We have the first one from Robert, and he's asking, how do we get around the lack of funding to update some of our systems?
Yeah. Kind of like what Bruce was saying earlier, figure out who are the key stakeholders in that situation where they may not see where they're losing money by not having a certain system in place, and putting together a real business case with data that shows evidence to the fact of, yes, I'm asking you to spend X, but in the big picture, it's going to save 10 times X, and if you present it in a very logical business case, it's going to be hard for them to argue against that, and maybe they'll give you reasons, well, this and that, and it's cash flow situation, blah, blah, blah. But, at least they show that you're being proactive, that you're defending in favor of the company, in favor of the customer, and, it's versus just kind of saying, we need X without any kind of way of backing it up and any kind of data to demonstrate and illustrate why you're asking for that.
And a couple of thoughts that I have to add to that is that one of the things that people in our, let's say, managers, who oftentimes have come up through the call center ranks, are not MBAs, et cetera, and therefore aren't quite sure how to present things. If you've got the MBA, then you've got the schools, the skills, and the tools to put together a business case. But if you don't have that, then try to make a friend in the CFO's office. This is
great idea.
One of the things about busting down the barriers that you were talking about, Nancy, is make a friend over there and say, hey, I need some help. This is what we see, and can you help me put this together? It's worth a cup of coffee, paying a cup of coffee, or bringing them to lunch or something like that. And this can actually change your life, because once they see that contact centers are oftentimes one of the largest sources of untapped value in the company, then they'll have more respect for you, and they'll help you out, and that sort of thing. So that's one of the tips that I would give Robert is to get to know what are the hot buttons. Okay, you need them to understand what you're sweating about. You need to know what they're sweating about, which is next quarter, next 4 quarter or 5 quarters of earnings. And if actually you can be somebody who helps that through good ROI analysis of your things, then that's great. And that happens all the time. People who have instituted things like workforce management systems and all kinds of other systems end up showing unbelievable ROIs. I mean, hundreds, sometimes thousands of %. And Nancy, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but someone in Los Angeles who was a call center manager said to me, Bruce, my CFO did something really weird. He came down the other day to see how we were doing and asked if I needed anything else. That's never happened before. Why did that happen? It's because he had brought through a couple of projects that had shown great ROI, and had shown, that they were really well done. And, he said, okay, I need to keep track of these people. So,
yeah, well, the opposite can happen too is that it helps that call center person. Maybe they're giving them insight to, well, here's what else is going on in the company, and help me figure out what's a priority and how to help me get your issue a higher priority too.
Good point. Yeah, excellent point. Very good. Okay, Alan, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we have a couple more. The next one is from Rachel, and she's asking, with increased security risks, put more processes into place, which will slow down our agents' productivity. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, Rachel. You just see more cybersecurity risks out there. So there are very good reasons for putting these systems in place and higher risks of security, but the biggest security risks still at the end of the day are human beings. I sat in on a cybersecurity presentation not too long ago, and it's just unbelievable how these folks are being evasive into the org, not only just through IT, but through cameras, through electrical, through your HVA systems. I mean, all kinds of ways that people are trying to, bust in and collect data. And because we're just pushing more and more data, in fact, I'm part of an organization that is promoting 5G, and we're building applications and technology around 5G. It's going to be 10 times, 50 more times, 100 more times, whatever, more data floating around there at higher rates of speed. So hopefully maybe 5G, once it gets in place, will help speed those things up that right now the security systems seem to be slowing down. But first and foremost, it's making sure you communicate the policies to your staff of, don't share your passwords. We force you to change your password, and we know it's a pain, but, we've got to protect our customer data. So you're doing it as a way to protect the customer. You're doing it as a way to keep customers coming back to you because they feel secure. I mean, think of all those credit card scams and things that, Target, the banks, so you start to lose faith. The customers start to lose faith and trust in you, and that's really hard to get back. So if you communicate in a way that it's a way for us to ensure our customers trust that we're going to take care of their data because you're taking care of your security on your end, then I think, that'll kind of ease off the frustration of that.
Great points. Great points. I don't really have anything to add to that because I think, the security is so important, and it's so, once the cat's out of the bag, then it's hard to toothpaste out of the tube, whatever analogy you want to do. It's really tough, and your reputation is so important. So I think that's a great point. Yeah, Alan, you said you had another question as well.
Yes, the last one we have is from Evelyn, and she's asking, how can I communicate the challenges my agents have when handling calls?
Well, one of them is, like I said earlier, have your senior staff sit in on calls, not recorded calls, but live calls, if at all possible. And maybe start tracking what are the key challenges that the agents are having. And I don't know if you have any kind of business intelligence software, Evelyn, in your call center, but I see a lot of organizations where they're putting monitors in place, they're putting systems in place. But the other side of it is, call center agents, as somebody put it to me the other day, have a thermometer so far stuck up there, to check their temperature on everything. They are so micromanaged more than anybody that I can think of in the organization, as far as, maybe in the healthcare where, for good reasons they're micromanaging those folks. But for somebody that's making, $20 or less an hour, they're very, very highly monitored. So you've got to understand, from their point of view, they're doing the best job they can. They want to help the customer. But if you have all these check boxes that they have to do in place, it's a lot of plates that they're spinning in the air. And, maybe helping managers understand from that perspective, if you were sitting here in my place and you had many of them have been, help me figure out, what should I be focusing on? What's most important? And then, reprioritize things there so that people can understand where they're supposed to focus on based upon, what's really important to the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are great points. And I think to add to that, just to underline the value that statistics can have, that if you can collect the statistics that are going to be compelling to the audience that you're trying to play to, then that's really important. And that's one of the things, for instance, by making that friend over in the CFO's office or accounting, whatever, then you can find out, what will really grab their attention. And, it's the data, the metrics sort of being guided by the data. I mean, everybody's hearing that from Dr. Fauci now, right?
Right.
COVID-19. And, it's really important stuff. And I guess one other possibility is pilots. If you're able to, some sort of even jerry-rigged type of pilot that proves your point without spending a lot of money, then you might be able to then, get the money to do the bigger thing. And in some cases you have vendors. These days, particularly with what's going on now, there may be some vendors who are willing to work with you and give you a free pilot on something that you're trying to do for a limited period of time, but enough time so you can collect the stats and the data to help make your case. So that's what I would add there. Well, listen, we've come to the end of our allotted time here, but this has been great. Let me just give you an opportunity, Nancy, to say anything final if you'd like to, and then we'll hand things over to Alan.
Sure. Yeah. Just in general, in this crazy time, everybody stay safe, and hopefully we'll be back face to face in the next couple of weeks or so, or at least in smaller groups, to where we can at least get out of our lockdown period, and hopefully everyone can survive this crazy time. But just basically communication is key, and having empathy for different sides of the house and the organization, I think, is really important. So find ways that you can kind of continue to keep that line of communication open.
Great points. Hear, hear. And we do hope that this COVID thing passes over. We feel terribly for those people who've been affected and who've lost dear ones, etc. And just hope that this really goes away as quickly as possible. But thank you so much, Nancy, for giving us your time and your insights. We really do appreciate it. And with that,
pleasure.
Okay, great. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Alan to wrap things up.
Yes, thanks again to Nancy and to Bruce for your new insights on today's show. Be sure to join us next month for another great show, or look at our huge selection of archive shows and hot topics at benchmarkportal.com. Then click on CallTalk, where you'll find over 11 seasons of this show. From all of us at Benchmark Portal, keep those headsets steady and your fingers ready. This is Alan Pockhotter signing out. Have a great day.